Hello, everybody, and welcome to Jiminny's virtual panel event, all around conversation intelligence throughout the customer journey. Super excited to see everybody here. So my name is Bekkie Wetz. I'm the VP of CS at Jiminny, and I'm going to be the moderator for our great panelists that we have here today. Now, I have asked each of them to think of a fact about themselves, so I thought it was only fair that I shared something about myself as well. So I thought I'd fill you in about my failed lockdown hobbies. I tried to learn keyboard, got as far as learning Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then gave it up, and have since started dance classes. So please wish me better luck with those. But enough about me. Before we pass over to our panelists to get to know them a little more, just one thing in terms of how things are going to run today. So you guys will all see at the bottom of your Zoom, there's a Q&A option. It's there to be used anytime that you have a question. Please pop it in. If it's for someone specific on the panel, let me know and we'll try and answer them as we go through. Otherwise, we'll try and get to them at the end. So do make sure you're letting us know all of your questions. Aside from that, I really hope that you enjoy our conversation today and can take some really good stuff from it. So both conversation intelligence and connecting to the customer are things that are really close to my heart, because really it's the focus of what we do here at Jiminny. But today isn't about hearing from me. It's about hearing from people who live and breathe this every day. So I'm joined by a really great panel with leaders across product, CS, and sales who are going to share their stories about their journey with listening to the customer and what they're working on now and in the future as well. So super excited to dig in. Guys, I would love for you to introduce yourselves and share a little something about yourselves as well.
Great, thanks, Bekkie. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Oliver. I'm head of sales at Gatekeeper, or a B2B SaaS solution helping customers with contract and supplier management. I guess a fact about me, a bit of insight into me. I'm very happily outnumbered 7-1 in my household. With a couple of latest additions, which I've maybe got a question for everyone for as well. So lucky to have a wonderful wife, 3 beautiful daughters, 2 slightly aloof cats, and most recently 2 guinea pigs, Piggle and Nuggets. And if anyone knows the actual point of a guinea pig, then please do put it into the chat here, because I'm all ears.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Austin?
Brilliant, thank you, Andy. Yeah, so I'm Austin John. I currently head up one of our product teams here at Lloyd System Intelligence. For those of you who don't know us, we are a maritime intelligence analytics business. So we're really focused on operations, risk and compliance in terms of how we serve our customers. A little bit about me. So actually, I was sort of having this conversation with my wife the other day. What do I say in terms of a fun fact that doesn't sound boring? But something that's unique to me is actually I'm a triplet. So I'm one of 3. My parents had 3 all in one go. So that was obviously a bit of a surprise for them at the time. But yeah, one of 3. So that's my fun fact. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Mishkowski. I'm currently the VP of Customer Experience here at Cision. Cision is a PR and comms software platform. Customer Experience at Cision is made up of 4 key pillars, so support, success, onboarding, and training. My fact, it's something that's taken over my life at the moment. Andy knows me relatively well, so he won't be surprised by what I'm talking about. So I'm a massive Liverpool fan, and I'm counting the days down to go to Paris and watch Liverpool in the Champions League final on Saturday. So I'm slightly distracted by that at the moment, so apologies. And hopefully people don't start leaving the call based on that either.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie Ulpiani. I'm the head of consumer sales at MyTutor. MyTutor delivers one-to-one online tuition to students from primary to secondary school, and I'm looking after the B2C consumer team. So I think I discovered my passion for sales when I was roughly 5 or 6 years old, and I was very, very tired about my toys, and I decided to go on the street, put the table and start selling and pitching passerbys to buy my toys. And that's where I think, yeah, I got my my passion for sales.
I love that. I'd love to have seen your pitch at 5 years old. That would have been amazing. And I love that you call it a pitch as well when you're 5. All right, thanks guys. It's great for everyone to get to know you a little bit more. I'm sure some people will be feeling a bit sad for you, Matt, given the weekend, but we won't dwell there. We'll move on and look forward. Guys, so today obviously we're talking about conversation intelligence throughout your customer journey. What I really wanted to do is just start with the basics and start with the why, and just ask you, from your perspective and in your company, why is listening to the customer even important? Austin, I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Bekkie. Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously in a product role, I think the most important thing, and I think this is something you have to adopt culturally across your organization, but historically, from a product perspective, many people talked about features, and it was about outside, it was inside out. So you were broadcasting to your customers. But in order for us to develop and build really strong and valuable products that are actually going to meet the demand of our customers, you have to bring that voice back in. So you, as an expert and has an understanding of the customer, you have to bring that back in from outside. So for me as a product manager, it's really important that I understand in detail and in depth the challenges and the types of things that our customers are doing, so that we can make the right decisions in terms of what we build next. So that's why it's important for me.
Yeah, and it makes a ton of sense, right? Stephanie, what about from the sales perspective?
It's absolutely critical in everything we do. Sales is the frontline, first point of contact for our customers. And so thanks to them, we can hear sentiment, trends, changes in the market. And hearing and being so close to customers, to the conversation intelligence, is really, really critical to feed back to marketing and product when it comes to, user experience, or perhaps sentiment around the service that we are providing and the technology that we're using, but also internally when it comes to coaching and training the team. Great.
And Andy, I know you're also in the sales world. Would you agree with Stephanie there? Add anything?
Yeah, I definitely agree with saying on the coaching. I think there's from my perspective, from a gatekeeper perspective, there's maybe 3 main areas of why it's important to us. One is kind of understanding customer pain and being able to do that at scale. So understand not just that organizational, but that personal pain that people are going through, and being able to apply that to the full life cycle. So it benefits both marketing, sales, customer success, product, etc. Competitive intelligence would be the second one. So understanding what people are saying about our competitors, really building up that picture, which is increasingly important for us in the market we operate in. And then just driving consistency within the organization. Like as a scale up, that's one of our biggest challenges, to make sure we're consistent in our approach. So understanding the conversations, both from internal and external perspectives, helps us achieve that with the coaching frameworks in particular.
Okay, wonderful. So quite a varied response there, but I think for everyone, it's, deeper understanding of the customer just leads to a better experience, better teams, better products, which is great. And I'm excited to dig into more what that looks like. So Matt, one thing that I'm actually really interested to hear from you is a little bit about, your world, I guess, pre-conversation intelligence and beginning on that qualitative journey. Would you kind of tell us a little bit about the past?
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks, Bekkie. So let's start at the beginning. Joined Cision 18 months ago, really to consolidate our major European markets into one consolidated EMEA CX organization. And part of that process was looking at what we were doing with our customers and how we were doing it, what technology, what platforms we were using. We were doing lots of different things in different ways, some good, some bad, some ugly. Ties in very well with the subject of today's webinar. And what we wanted to do was, first of all, consolidate our voice of customer program. So we selected a single provider, and that started our journey into voice of customer. We mapped the customer journey, we mapped the moments that matter. These were the phrases we used. So these were the significant touch points along the journey that we felt we needed to understand our customers better and what that experience of doing business with Cision was like. But that was really only the start of it. I think we got some great insight from our customers through that initial Voice of Customer program. But actually, we realized that the real value from the customer probably required us to follow up with them and actually start asking supplementary questions to really get to the next level of detail with the comments and the feedback that our customers were providing to us. So that's really where we started utilizing Jiminny to really start analyzing those calls that our leaders are having with our customers to really follow up on that Voice of Customer feedback.
Okay, so I guess it's adding a deeper layer to the understanding.
I think it's taking the phrase that I often think about, and I often get the wrong way around, but it's really making sure that we solve the problem, not the symptom. And I think what I mean by that is we were finding frequently that our customers' feedback was being critical around maybe a support experience. And was our support experience great at the time? No, it wasn't. It had room for improvement. There was lots of things we needed to fix on that. But actually, when we started having the conversations with our customers, we realized actually that the problem probably wasn't a support related incident, but actually may have been something related to the product. Was it missing functionality? Was the customer unaware of functionality within the product? Were they using the wrong part of the product? Was there a bug? It was also letting us understand more around what happened in the pre-sales process and the onboarding process. Had something fallen down there? So I think it's only when you start having those secondary conversations that really dig that extra level of detail, do you really start understanding your customer better than you probably did before. So that's really the key part for me.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, Matt. And then Austin, because I know you're coming at it slightly differently from the product world. So what did that look like to you, I guess, before you had conversation intelligence at your fingertips, and what was the good, the bad, and the ugly there?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a lot of the points that Matt's raised actually I can associate with as we've been sort of building out our product team here at Lloyds List Intelligence. And the key really is exactly what Matt's described, which is how do you leverage those interactions with customers? So what sort of intent do you have around those interactions? And how do you find the gold? So how do you find the things that are really important for those customers so that you can really understand the size of the pain? And once you've got that, then you can start to think about how you develop something that's valuable for them, they're going to be engaged with, and they're going to want to use on a regular basis and become a loyal customer. So I think that's a really important point that Matt makes. In terms of for us, obviously we as product managers at Lloyds List Intelligence, our role predominantly is interacting with customers. That's the main focus of what we do. But we spent a lot of time prior to conversation intelligence writing notes. So interviewing customers, spending time interviewing customers, but actually writing notes as we go. So you're kind of distracted by doing two things. You're kind of interacting and you're writing notes. Are you asking the right types of questions? And that's something that we're trying to foster in terms of our product team, asking the right types of questions to dig for gold. Then you find the gold, then you add the value. And I think that's something that's really important. We couldn't be across all of the calls that our commercial teams were doing, all of our other stakeholders in the business, like our data and content teams. So our ability as a smaller team at the time to be able to get across all of those calls, it was we were pretty inhibited to be able to do that. But now with conversation intelligence, of course, we can do that, right? And we can start to feed into those conversations in a bit of an indirect way, but we can see the benefit back as well. So the other thing I was also going to say is that we as product managers would also look through loads of those notes as a follow-up from those commercial conversations to try and pick out the trends and the themes and the things that were pertinent within our customer groups. What we're able to do now is to develop an understanding of what the key themes are. We can then seed those back into our commercial team so that we can start to capture them during conversational intelligence. So for us, we call that a discovery roadmap. So it's around themes that are emerging. We seed that with our commercial teams to get a bit of a better understanding. That allows us to be able to then understand, well, how many customers is this important for? And then what we can do is dive in a bit more detail and follow up with those customers to validate the depth of the problem. So it's all about, for me, it's about being more efficient and more effective with the time that you have, and making sure that you have those sort of interactions with customers with intent, really, to get the right types of answers out. So I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour of the types of challenges we had, but certainly added a lot of value since we've started to work with you guys.
Well, thank you. Awesome. So Stephanie, from your perspective, kind of the world before, and I know from speaking with you how important coaching is and team development, and I believe you guys were in a bit of a remote world as well. Like, what were the struggles that you had there?
When I joined the company, was right before the pandemic started, and I had a small team of roughly 10 reps. In the past 18 months, we scaled the team to 36 people, and we opened the position to anywhere in the UK. So I've got basically probably 10 of them now, 12 of them based in London. Everyone else is based outside of London. And so throughout the past 18 months, it was really, really difficult to be on top of everyone's call and make sure that there was consistency in the approach that they were using with customers. But also it was very difficult to see the impact with evidence on performance. And all the coaching and training that we were doing, it was really, really hard to see that in real time. And also the other challenge was developing a coaching culture amongst the team. And so we had the sort of usually same people sharing calls and asking for feedback, but it was probably 10% of the entire team. And so it was really, really important for me to bring everyone together into this process, into this coaching culture, make sure that asking for feedback and sharing feedback was easy and comfortable for everyone. And that's why I decided to approach Jiminny and then integrate Jiminny. And it's been really, really beneficial for the entire team since we launched it.
Wonderful, thank you. Andy, on the sales side as well, like what I'd love to get an idea of is, you know, you mentioned your 3 things, which are great. And I definitely think that other people in sales will, you know, feel the importance of those, like competitor intelligence, consistency in the process, their regular struggles that people can have. So how do you actually go about, you know, tackling them now? Like, what does that look like in your world?
I think if we take a look at one of those, maybe kind of competitive intelligence, just to pick one. So we've been quite fortunate in many ways that we operate in a very large kind of market for contract management. Our head of marketing often describes it as a bit of a blessing and a curse, the size of our market. But that's meant historically we've had lots of greenfield opportunities, but we're starting to see a slight shift in the market now where customers have been through the first iteration of their contract vendor management solution. Things haven't worked out. There's obviously a lot of pain associated with that, often tied to the solution that they picked, and now looking to move to their second iteration of a solution. And that's giving us great opportunity to really get some insights into, you know, what we're doing well, where our gaps are, and vice versa for our competitors to help position ourselves. It's also meaning a slight sort of change in some of the ways that we're approaching calls. We've been very used to just dealing with customers coming from manual processes, and we understand those pains and those problems, and we know how to solve them. But now we're having to have a slightly different conversation of people are migrating from the existing solution, which is a new challenge for us as a sales team. So being able to understand and listen and share all those calls which meet that scenario is helping us develop new tactics, new techniques, and ultimately a new coaching framework around that to handle that scenario much better and position ourselves stronger against our competition.
Awesome. So does that include like persona creation and things around that?
I wouldn't say persona creation so much, but it's starting to feed into our kind of our battle cards. So you know, there's some kind of you know, those kind of anecdotal snippets of information that you can pick up from certain customers can be really valuable in how we can kind of turn that around into good questioning with customers who we know are operating on that chosen competitor and so forth. So our personas aren't changing so much, but our competitive intelligence and how we approach those scenarios and the information we can share with our new hires definitely is changing as a result.
Wonderful. And just to jump over to you, Matt, because I know you're in the world of the customer across different teams, as you mentioned. So in terms of, you know, having that deeper level, as you mentioned, with data, like what does that look like now? Like, what's your process around that?
I think I've probably got to put my hands up and say we're still figuring a lot of that out as we go. So we're in a very or relatively early stage of building the process out and tweaking it as we go. But the process really, as I said, I mean, going back to my point around the voice of customer and how we've used that and what that process looks like, we're still building out our voice of customer program in terms of the touch points that we want to collect feedback from our customers on. So at the moment, it's based around, I guess, 3 key moments that matter, going back to that phrase. One is a support transaction, one is the onboarding process, so at the end of the onboarding process, and the third one is a transactional training delivery. So that's where we are at the moment. The next stages of that will include various other touch points throughout the journey. The process is that, well, we've tweaked this again. It used to be based on our customer adding in our survey response, whether they wanted a follow-up call from a member of the Decision CX leadership team. And we were getting managers from the support team or from the onboarding team or from the training team to follow up on that request for feedback. And that was a process. We had an SLA to try and achieve that in, so a certain amount of time to get that call done, so it's fresh in the customer's mind in terms of what they want to talk about and share with us. And I guess where we are with that process now, we're collecting the data. We've got an internal process now for sharing that information widely across our business. So we have a quarterly actionable insights report that goes out to a wider business, so our senior leaders. So we're sharing that level of feedback with everybody. So we've been very transparent around that. Again, I can probably go with the good, the bad, and the ugly with that feedback. And I guess the next stage really, and when we talk about insights, we talk about customer insights, which is great, but for me, I prefer to use the phrase actionable insights, because actually I want insights that change actions. How are we going to change the way that we do business? And that's really where we're at now. Is okay, we've got all this great feedback, we validated it, we've got to more granular detail, but actually how are we going to take that back into our business and change and improve the way that we do business, whether it's building products, whether it's how we sell, whether it's how we onboard, whether it's how we support our customers, how do we make them successful, how do we understand their outcomes better. And I think this is where we're at now, is actually we've got all this great data, or we're starting to receive all this great data, we're validating it, but actually what now? And that's really where I'm at as a leader, where I'm working with my leadership team to decide actually how do we focus on that, and how do we hold people accountable within our business for driving those improvements.
Sounds like we're going to have to get you back, Matt, in a few months to see how it all goes. But it's a really important piece that you just mentioned there, because I think through getting this additional layer of data from the customer, it does become can become a business, need to listen rather than just a team.
I think one of the things, we're talking a lot about the customer in this webinar, and that's great, because the customer has to be at the forefront of everything we do. But I'm also very conscious that actually there's an employee engagement piece in here for me as well. I think it helps our employees feel validated, listened to, understood by hearing all of this and by seeing it, experiencing what they experience. So I think we shouldn't lose the fact that actually this is multidimensional for me. It's not just a customer angle, there's also an employee and a business angle there as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Austin, I'd like to hear your thoughts around this as well.
No, right. I mean, I just want to follow up on that piece around sharing this insight across the business and actually bringing the understanding of what the other person hears on the other side of the phone. So obviously with our commercial teams, historically, what we would have had is some anecdotal feedback. I was on a call with so-and-so customer. they've pushed back and said, well, look, what you've built there is okay, but it's not as good as what X, Y, and Z has. And a lot of the time it was like, okay, would that come up on a recurring basis from many customers? And often it would be like, it got to a stage where it'd be like, okay, we'll have to join a call and we'll listen into that and we'll dive in and ask the same question to the customer again to get them to recap it, understand why it's really important to them. So I think it's that trust, isn't it? It's that trust that your colleagues internally are being heard, and what they're able to show you through conversation intelligence is that you heard it firsthand. It's recorded, you can read the transcript, you can see what was captured. And actually the other thing that's also really important for me is that piece again around how big a problem is it, right? And you really get a sense of that when you're listening to someone's voice. When someone's telling you that it's taken me 5 minutes longer than it should do, and it's really frustrating, that's the size of the pain for them. So that is really important. So I do think, as Matt said, it's kind of culture as well. It's about them being heard. It's about them sharing and those things being actioned and listened to at the same time, because everyone in the organization has a responsibility to be close to the customer. And I think that's the other piece for me, is that everyone has a place to play in this. It's not just the product team. It's not just the customer success team or whoever that might be. But the closer you are to the customer, the more you bought into your job, the more you want to do your job well, and the more you want to satisfy your customers at the end of the day. So it's kind of it is that cycle. We especially have been through a number of the things that Matt described as well. The one thing that I would say from a product perspective on our side is that it does allow us, conversational intelligence, to do some broad discovery to start with, to listen to all calls that meet a certain requirement that we might set up as a tag. And then what it allows us to do is then follow up with more deeper sort of validation around particular things like what their workflow looks like, what tasks they're performing for their job. And again, the sort of the delivery as part of that actually flows right through into you'll develop personas, you develop workflow documents, which actually become really valuable across the organization. So when you're sharing with the marketing team who are preparing go-to-market, they can then talk about the benefits at a really detailed level. It's going to save you X amount of minutes to this particular pain. It's all things you can associate with. And then it's the same thing with our sales teams as well. If they need to prepare for objections or they need to prepare to position in a certain way, you've tackled off a lot of that up front. So that customer discovery piece and that validation around the problem is really important. So we've spent a lot of time in that area, and that's kind of the benefit that we've certainly seen. So where we were before, which was very manual, very looking and reviewing notes, to joining multiple calls, to now where we can start to sort of be more efficient and more effective in terms of the way that we capture and how we use the intelligence that we capture as well.
Wonderful, thanks. And I know you mentioned then about, you know, the I guess the benefits across the board of understanding the customer. And I know, Austin, when we spoke before, you said something that really stuck with me around the more you understand the customer, the more passionate you become about them and the more you care. And I just think that's such an important thing to have within teams and within business and within a culture.
Absolutely agree.
Andy, talking of qualification, I know this is something that, again, you know, for you, understanding the customer, I think you mentioned, you know, I can't remember what you said, you have to remind me, but qualify hard, close easy, something around those lines. If you could talk to us a bit around that.
Yeah, so I guess that's very much focused on the sales team here at Gatekeeper and our account executives who perform the majority of our kind of discovery with our customers. And that's where, from conversational intelligence perspective, really understanding that customer pain, which I mentioned at the start as one of my 3 kind of key areas, is really important. I think most organizations probably have a good understanding of like the organizational pain that they remove via their solution for their customers. I think, kind of going back to a point I think that Austin was making, kind of where the gold is like really understanding that kind of personal pain, those kind of emotive words that you were just referring to, that kind of frustration. If you can understand what that is and how you can remove it, then it greatly increases your chance of winning that kind of piece of business. So coming back to the use of Jiminny, it's really setting some standards, setting some best practices and building a coaching framework around that inside the solution. So not only does it make my life easier in terms of listening to calls at scale and coaching at greater scale now than we did before. We, similar to Austin and Matt, had very kind of manual processes kind of before Jiminny in terms of listening and reporting on calls. We can now do that at greater scale, and those individuals can review those calls themselves against a set of standards that we dictate as well. So it just helps the whole organization become more efficient and more consistent with the way that we qualify, which gives us more consistency through the rest of our pipeline as well. So there's kind of a real knock-on effect of getting that first call with a prospect right and at high quality will just dramatically improve our chances and our efficiency through the rest of the funnel.
Absolutely, and beyond. Right, with the CS handover, even through to renewal, having all of that information is never going to be a bad thing.
Indeed.
Awesome. All right, Stephanie, from your side, I guess, focused on the coaching element, is there anything you kind of add around how you're listening to the customer, how you're bringing that into the actual coaching conversation and the way that you're building that out within your teams?
We have regular share and learn sessions in the team every week. Having such a large team, we split that into 4 different squads, and we not only have individual coaching sessions, but also we want to bring learnings and best practice also in a group session. And so it's really, really important for us to share calls and ask for feedback. We also have sort of individual targets. So we want every rep to do some couple of self-coaching a week, so that they can either listen to their own call and review using the framework, but also contribute and feedback to someone else and share the call or review a call of someone else. And that before Jiminny, it would have been really, really complicated, or anyway, we were doing it, but it was on a small scale and very manual as well. Now it's accessible to everyone, visible to everyone, and is also easier to share conversations and feedback to other departments, obviously mainly focusing on marketing and product for now. And again, without Jiminny before, we would only rely to probably a handful of calls that we would share, and now we can do it at scale.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks. So what I'd love to understand a bit more, actually, I'm just going to stop because we've had a question and I'm slow to pick it up, but Dan, hi Dan, has asked a couple of questions. So for Andy and Stephanie, the question is, who do you task to identify and add calls to your playbooks so you can gather coaching opportunities?
From my perspective, we're quite a small team, Dan, so it would be the individuals running the call, so the account executives, for example, if it's discovery calls or demos, then they are responsible for identifying them with some criteria, and from identifying ones to be coached, then again I pass that responsibility down to them to bring calls to me on a weekly basis to say this is something that's gone well, this is something that hasn't gone so well, and we'll dive into it. So very much kind of delegate that responsibility down to the team.
Same with me. I've got team leads, but also senior sales exec who are bringing together the most junior members of the team, and they create a playlist and deliver the group coaching sessions. But when we have individual ones, we also ask them to share a call with us at least 24 hours before, and highlight exactly what part of the call they need help with, where they needed some feedback on, so that we can focus in the coaching session on that.
Brilliant. And do you put KPIs around that? Like they have to share X amount of calls, or you just encourage it throughout the team?
We have the only KPI is 2 self-coaching sessions a week that we can easily monitor in Jiminny. When it comes to share and learn, there isn't a KPIs as such yet, but it will come soon.
I mean, we have a repeating cadence, and people need to submit it, so it's not doesn't require a KPI at this stage for the way we run it.
Great. All right, thanks both. And then we've been speaking a lot about, I guess, coaching in and of itself can be a culture shift for some people within the team, leaders or reps, as can, having quite an extreme focus on the customer. Have any of you, throughout that change, moving to where you're at now and being customer focused, have you experienced any challenges with that, I guess? And maybe Matt, I'll pass to you first.
Yeah, a challenge sounds a little bit harsh, but I think what we're trying to do is change behaviors. And I think when we look at the closed loop feedback, where we utilize Jiminny, we're asking our managers to do things that they haven't done before. So we've got to be very conscious of that. We're asking them to do things that they may not necessarily have skills that they use regularly. And where I think about this is questioning techniques. Now, we've got 2 very good sales leaders on the call, and I'm sure they have great experiences of coaching their teams with using the right questions at the right time to get the right level of insight. My team are generally support professionals. They're great at supporting our customers. They've got great skill sets, but actually questioning techniques may not be something that comes naturally to them. So I think one of the things that I'm becoming more aware of and more conscious of is the fact that we're needing to give people skills that they potentially haven't had before, or they don't utilize often. And also that culture shift. And I think if we look at the kind of the bigger picture, it's a culture shift that we're looking for in a whole business about how we become more customer centric. But at the heart of this question is changing that behavior within my team to do something different that they haven't done before.
Great. Austin,
Can I just pick up, Bekkie, on that just quickly?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, look, it is really important to sort of set that as a bar essentially across your organization, because I mean, for us, one of the things that we've been quite clear on, our leaders in our business have said, if the voice of the customer isn't included in anything that you're putting forward, so no business cases or investment requests, that's not going to get signed off. And as much, I mean, to pick up a little bit on the sort of change in behavior and the challenge around that, there is a challenge because people want to do things quickly and they want to get moving forward, but there's also a risk that comes with that of doing things so quickly. And often that is, you're not delivering exactly what the customer requires to make it valuable for them in the first place. So I think for us, it's about, top down, saying that customer voice is really important and how we can use it with intent. And secondly, just making sure everyone understands the process and what it means for them on a practical level. When they're looking for investment or they're looking to have something signed off to move forward, then it is really important to sort of cover it all off and make sure it's clear for people.
And how did that go, Austin? Like, has that always been the way that it was working with the commercial team, or was there changes that needed to come in to get everyone aligned around that?
Yeah, I mean, the big change for us, Bekkie, was around everyone fully understanding the value of what product management brings to an organization and how we leverage all of the great interactions we have across the board. So I think, firstly, it was about, well, there's this new department or this new person doing a very particular job. What are they doing? But secondly, it was also about saying everyone in the organization is having great conversations. It's about using them in the right way. And I think that was the sort of big sea change for us. And we've also done things in our organization. We have like an awards program called Making Waves, which essentially is a program which talks about going above and beyond for the customer. And what it does is reward everyone, not just those people that are customer facing, but those people that are in our back office teams that help deliver things and deliver an optimum experience to customers. And that's something that's really rewarding because, one, they understand who the customer is they're serving, but two, obviously gets them bought into the fact that we need to keep doing this. We need to keep bringing ideas and fostering ideas in the organization. Otherwise we won't innovate. And I think that's really important as well.
Wonderful. I love that. It also, the making waves really matches your background at the moment as well. But yeah.
Sorry, I had to go with the maritime theme.
No, I love it. Great. And then Stephanie, from your perspective, more on the sales side, I guess, rather than the business side, was there any resistance or challenge faced from within the team or anyone about moving to a coaching customer focus shift?
I think the two main challenges were sharing and consistency. So when it comes to sharing, some felt uncomfortable asking for feedback, or at least sharing it with the rest of the group, not the team lead specifically, but with the wider group, because they felt it as a maybe failure or not meeting the right standard. And we're seeing this also now returning to the office. It is very difficult for them to be in an office space surrounded by people listening to them, because for the past 18 months, they've been working in their bedroom with their own laptop. And so there was nobody there to look at them and hear what they were saying and providing feedback. And so sharing has been a bit challenging for some, and consistency. So thanks to the framework that we've built, and now with the evidence that we have and visibility in every step of the call, we can focus really on training everyone in having a consistent approach when it comes to questioning and objection handling, something that before would have been very, very complicated. And it just needs some time, takes some time, obviously, but it's definitely much easier now.
Okay, wonderful. And just whilst we're on the subject of coaching within your team, we've had another question for you, Stephanie, from Dan, specifically around self-coaching, which I guess in and of itself is again a change and can come as some challenge. But he's asked, how do you drive accountability for this within your team? Do you have any tips around it?
It's really important to understand the blocker. Why would they not do self-coaching? And what I've experienced with my team is that by doing some self-coaching, they would spend time listening to a call and reviewing instead of making sales. And they were really worried that it could have an impact on their performance and KPIs and targets. And so having an open conversation around that and making sure that they see the value of spending half an hour a week, not more than that, in listening, reviewing, and asking for feedback, and taking that into account when it comes to KPIs and targets, then you find a good compromise, and you would then take them on board.
Wonderful. Thanks again. Andy, coming over to you now, what I'd love to hear about, I know, again, we've spoken about lots of different ways that listening to customers helped you in the sales process and the business, but what kind of business results is listening to the customers, like, are you achieving, from doing that?
Yeah, I mean, the use of, I guess, of Jiminny is still fairly early days for us, but as I say, we have been listening to calls and using more manual processes for some time now. So I think the biggest benefits that we've been able to see is really around bringing new people into the team and having being able to get them up to speed a lot quicker, not just on the customer challenges, the customer pain points, what a good fit customer looks like to us for Gatekeeper, what type of language they're going to be using, what type of wording, what type of problems are they going to be facing. That's been a clear kind of business benefit when we are recruiting heavily, we're growing rapidly, actually getting people up to speed on our value proposition, on our product, on how we communicate with customers is of vital importance to us in terms of our future success. The quicker we can do that, the quicker we can grow effectively. So that's been like the overall benefit of being able to listen to customers, and that's something, again, we're not consistent across that, and something that Jiminny is really helping us be more consistent across the entire business, and speed us up and help us grow faster.
Okay, so there's a heavy customer focus then within that onboarding space, I guess it sets the scene for the new hires, right? That's how you work and what's important.
Yeah, and how we communicate and what we should be listening out for as well. Like what does good look like to us in the sales environment, or what does good look to us in the customer success environment? You know, that's what we should be aspiring to. And the more examples we can build of that, and the more we can share that efficiently, the better we set the team up for success.
Wonderful, thanks. Also, Austin, how about yourself? I mean, that sounds like there's been a huge change in terms of you and the commercial team working more around the customer. Obviously, there's big processes in place that really involve the customer as well. What's some of the business results you've seen as a result of that process?
Just to say, I think we're still on this journey ourselves, right? We're still learning a lot every day around how we work and how effective we are. But the one thing I would say in terms of results is that, for me in product, if we can deliver really strong value propositions out to our customers that have all of that voice included, that for one is a really great measure. There's two others which are kind of more financially driven, but one is around long-term loyalty. And with us, we're very heavily swayed towards subscriptions in our business. So we have customers that have been subscribing to us for a long time. But what we've also seen as a result of some of the investments we've pushed through recently is that first year renewal rate for customers is starting to grow rapidly. And that the reason for that is because customers feel like we're listening to them, we're reacting, we're delivering things that are effective for them. And I think that is a really good measure and understanding. I mean, we do also do in our organization NPS as well, to sort of understand, based on the interactions with different departments, how effective we are. So that's another good measure. But for me, it's around delivery of strong value propositions that meet customer needs. It's about financially, getting customers to buy in long-term with us. And then thirdly, obviously commercial success that comes with that. So that would be it from me.
And I guess as well from your process is, because you're really finding out about the customer, like you mentioned previously, you're not building things that actually, or creating things that they don't really want, because you've taken the time to find out, okay, exactly what is that pain and how do we build for it, rather than just taking what they say and running with it without investigating fully.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll just give you one more example of something that we've done more of and we found really effective, is that we historically have run like roundtable discussions where we'd bring a number of customers in. We would probably do that over Chatham House rules or something, so that it's sort of private and stuff. But what we've also done is we've done more public forums where we've brought people in and we've then talked to the industry about what everyone else is doing. And I think a lot of the assumption going into that is that everyone knows what everyone else is doing, and they don't. They really don't know what's going on. And they're looking at each other for best practices and the way that things should be implemented. But the value that delivers back at the end of it is you've taken something from the industry and you've delivered something back. So it's effectively, it's built by the industry for the industry. And that's kind of like your rubber stamp and your gold that sits on top. And I think that's something that's also been really effective for us as well. So it's a mix of customer voices, what I would say has also been successful in that regard as well.
Great, thank you. Stephanie, on kind of business results, I know that there's been, obviously the culture shift will have impact, but I know when we spoke previously, you mentioned something around the SEO team and changes they were able to make. Could you talk us through that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Very recently, we've asked the sales team to gain insights from our customers about the website experience. And we wanted to know what are the blockers that customers face on our site that cause them to leave. So the sales team asked 1 to 3 survey questions. And with Jiminny, we extracted the responses by searching the call transcripts for keywords. And the data was then analyzed and shared across marketing, sales, and the CRO teams. And with that data now, we can evaluate whether there's anything that we need to change on the website in the way customers can filter the tutors that they need for their child, and in general, whether there's any update, extra feature that we need to build.
Great. So that comes back to, as you were saying, Matt, that actionable piece and feeding back into the beginning of the funnel. So kind of helping at every step. Awesome. Matt, were you going to add something?
No, nothing really else to add to that. I didn't know if the question was coming.
You were prepared. Well, it is coming, yes. I was going to ask, we've been speaking about business results. I know you and the team have been, listening to customers for a while, and you're really at the process of stepping it up now. So I guess it's a double question in the sense of, are there any business results you're seeing already, and what do your future plans look like around listening to the customer more?
I think realistically that the business results aren't there yet, or are not. There's probably too small a data set to really kind of align that to anything tangible at the moment. Where I am starting to see some impact is around culture change. And I think, look, I'm pretty sure I could check all of our websites where we work today, and I'm sure we've got something about being customer centric or customer first or customer at the heart of everything we do. But realistically, our business is demonstrating that day in, day out. And that's what I'm trying to change. That's what I want to change within Cision, is having that culture that we think about that across the entire business, not just the customer experience organization. So there's little things that are gradually changing within our business around culture shift, the sharing of those actionable insights, the follow-up questions that come from our senior leaders or our stakeholders across the wider business is starting to show that people are understanding that actually the business results and the correlation to that feedback is there. And I think people are clarifying and wanting to know more and understand what that looks like. So the business results, I would argue, we're probably not seeing enough at the moment. And that's probably my biggest challenge moving forward for the second half of this year. But we are starting to see the culture shift. Plans moving forward. I said that the Voice of Customer program is still quite early. My goals for that VOC program are to go kind of deeper and wider into it and make sure that we continue to collect feedback from our customers when they want to share it in the format that they want to share it. But if I look at Jiminny and the wider plans for it, I think there's other areas of CX that we should be utilising it as well. We use it in our onboarding team at the moment, which has been very successful with the handoff between new business and the onboarding team. I'd like to start looking at it in terms of how we deliver our business reviews and recording that and the insights that we glean from our business reviews. And I genuinely think that the opportunity to use Jiminny within CX and within Cision more widely, the possibilities genuinely are endless. And I think it helps us understand our customers better through all of that.
Excellent. Very exciting indeed. Austin, how about you in terms of future plans? I know you've got a small and mighty team at the moment. What's that look like?
It's a great way of describing them, actually. Yeah, so that's the thing for me. So obviously we've been scaling product management across our business, but the key thing we've been trying to do is build out the processes that come with that and the level of detail and the artifacts that are required to be effective. And for me, it's doing more of that. I also thought, as we were going through the discussion, a little bit more about coaching and the fact that coaching, from internally at the moment across our commercial teams, we use coaching in the same way as what Andy and Stephanie described. But actually for me as a product manager or a leader of the product team, what it allows us to do is look at the types of questions our product managers are asking to be able to qualify and quantify the pains that their customers are seeing. So for me, coaching from a product management perspective in terms of the types of questions being asked is a really big opportunity for us. So that's something that I would also like to do. In terms of developing and fostering this kind of feedback loop, as you will, from our customers across different parts of the life cycle, The other thing that I've also been working on is a feedback policy, which essentially is very clear and very upfront to our customers about, you know, what will happen, what won't happen when you give us feedback. And obviously included in that will be, you will speak to product managers, and product managers will try and validate what you're doing and ask you questions about your workflow and your job and all of that sort of stuff. So for me, it's around making the product managers effective, setting the processes and continuing to build on that culture. It's also externally talking to our customers a little bit about what we do and how we continue to sort of drive that forward. So I would say they're probably the key areas for me.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. I know we're coming to the end. We've just got 4 minutes left. So I just wanted to begin to wrap things up just a little bit here. Before we do, though, I do have one final question for everyone here. There's going to be some people listening here, either live or after, who are just beginning to think about entering, you know, this world of listening to the customer more, whether to help them with from the coaching side or the product side, the CX side. So I'd love each of you just to share your top tip based on what you know now to help someone get started with this.
From my personal experience, I'd say just get on and do it. Nothing needs to be perfect for that first kind of iteration. For us, Jiminny very much is the second iteration of being able to do this more efficiently at scale. But prior to that, we were recording calls, we were reporting on calls, getting feedback from individuals and sharing that. And that gave us some insight and actually led to us thinking, let's invest in a better solution to do that. So I just encourage people to start listening and gain some insights. There's very simple ways you can do that.
Just to follow up on Andy there, so I think for me, so that there is a piece of terminology out there called a Nahito. I don't know if anyone's come across that before, but it says nothing important happens in the office. And for me, it's about making sure you get out and you speak to your customers, because unless you do that, you don't really understand how effective your products and services are. So it's important to start with that, start building that culture, make the time, go and speak to customers, because unless you do that, you won't get them brought into your business or any of your ideas moving forward. So it's just about that cultural shift.
I wish I was going to add something a little bit different, but I'm not. I'm going to build on that Andy's and Austin's feedback. I think for me, it's actually just getting on and doing something. I think we all know that it's right and we should be closer to our customers and listening more. I think sometimes, definitely from my perspective, you almost seek perfection in a process that's fully baked and immaculate and slick. Do you know what? Just start having conversations, record them, listen to them, and tweak it. So I'm very much of that kind of agile mindset. Work on 80%, go back and tweak the 20% as and when you can, but just start and just be creative and innovative and see what the results are, and they'll probably surprise you in a good way.
For me, would be decide what's top priority for you, be it sales training or coaching, or perhaps there's marketing and product research, or maybe you want to understand better the customer sentiment, and then focus on the key learnings, because there's so much data and insights that you can get from it. And then anything that comes next, you can review your approach. And then based on the learnings that you had, you can improve the way you listen to the voice of customers.
Great. Thank you so much. There was such good information there. Even just from that last bit, I feel like we could talk about that advice for hours and hours, but we don't have hours and hours, sadly. We are out of time. But I want to say a huge thank you to Andy, Austin, Stephanie, and Matt. You shared some really insightful bits with us today. It's been great for me to listen to. I really hope that everybody listening live as well has found it as insightful as I have. Oh, we've just maybe got a question coming. Oh no, just thank you. Okay, you're very welcome. So thank you again so much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you everyone for being here. See you soon.
Thank you all. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.